suggested that since you find in the time of Bar Kochva lived about 50 years after the Churban Bayis Sheni, and set up basically a government in the Beitar area. He was a very, very powerful person. He had Simonim, according to Rabbi Kiva, he had certain Simonim of Mashiach. He was a Cheskas Mashiach. And they found coins from his time that minted on them, there were images of the murex, trunkless. You see on the coins, these shells from these snails. And so, according to some, it was, quote, apparently irrefutable evidence. In other words, it's almost 100% raya that this was, the murex was the snail that was used for the producing of the Techelet. Because otherwise, why would they have an image, a picture of a not kosher species? Why would they do that? That's a very odd thing to have on a coin. It's a very, sounds like a good connection, I'm saying. If not for the fact that it was produced a mitzvah, and it was such an important mitzvah, obviously it was used then. Besides the fact that that's called a raya of Ashara B'alma, there's absolutely no connection. You don't find ever a connection in this raya, except that they found this and they assumed that that's what they used for Techelet. Otherwise, why would it be on it? That's called Ashara. It's suggestions. It's true. It could be. It would fit in, but as far as the halach is concerned, there's no makom for that l'chayr in psak. But besides that, the truth of the matter is that there was, like we said, a very thriving, major dyeing industry going on in those times, to the extent that in many of these cities, the historians say that half of the population were employed for fishing these snails for the dye. There's no question that there was a very strong dyeing industry. The question is if that's related to the Techelet. So there was a tremendous commercial importance in the murex. There's no question about that. Cities made most of their parnasa from fishing these things, which were made to dye very, very chashuvik clothing. And not only that, but you find on coins from way before Bar Kochva's time and way after Bar Kochva's time, from the Romans and the Greeks and all different governments, they all minted on their coins, they all minted the murex trunkless. And they also minted the verandaris, which are other types of snails, which pashtus is not, even according to anybody, was not used for Techelet. So you see from here that really there's no relationship between the fact that they found it on the coin and the fact that they make Techelet. It has to do with a certain status. It was a wealth status. It was a royalty. They used to use it for malachim, like it says by the Nevuzaradam. He left over midalas ha'am yoigvim so that they could get and fish the murex, so that they could whatever they were fishing. But they died. They had died. There's no question about it that it was this color and this was a malchus dike beged. And so the reason why they had it on these coins was because either because its commercial importance that it meant to the city, or because of its status of wealth and royalty. That alone is a reason to put it on a coin. So there's absolutely no raya b'chlal. Like we said, they had it well before, well afterwards. They had it all different types of snails, and so therefore the raya to directly connect it, to say, oh, we found over here a murex on Bar Kochva, who was a yid, and he had a government. He wanted to fit in with the other governments. He wanted to legitimize his government. He followed the lead of other governments. It wasn't his amtzah. So this l'chayr is not a good raya. L'chayr. Now others claimed that since you find in the writings of these elders of the Pliny the Elder, Aristotle, and others, you find so much writing about the dyeing, and they bring in these snails and everything. And now if there was something else that produced dye for the Techelet, if there was another type of a fish that produced dye, and think of it, there were so many Yidden, there were millions and millions of Yidden. The Gemara in Psachim says a cheshbon of how many Korban Pesachs there were, and each one had 10. Comes out, I think the Yavit says that it means that Lamais, it wasn't just a guzma, it was like, could have been at that time, Al Kapanim, 10 million Yidden in and around Eretz Yisrael. Each one of them had to have a pair of tzitzis, maybe two. And yet, you don't find in any of the writings of any of these historians, you don't find any ancient writings about this new fish that produced Techelet. And that's one of their rayas. You should have found something like that. And also, that also is a hashara ba'alma. I mean, from the fact of loy ra'inu ein a raya. You know, it's b'di'evet already what we find that they do bring rayas connections to. Al rishonim anu mitztarim, that they do bring a raya which they feel is a real direct raya, but to bring a raya from something, because the fact that there was no writings that they found. There could have been many, many writings that were not found. There's so many things that were written, I'm sure, over the past in history that were not found by archaeologists. They happen to found some, true. They found from Pliny, they found from Aristotle. There's nothing written about it. But who knows why? Maybe they didn't know about it. I mean, it was a local thing only for the Yidden. It came up Echad l'Shivim Shona. Who knows? I mean, start to guess why they didn't write about it. That is a very weak raya. That's a raya to connect the fact that if not for the fact that the murex is the thing, then it must be that there's something else at the Techelet, or something else at the Techelet, and why was there no writings about it? It's a very weak raya. And another raya that we'll speak about more tomorrow, Mirza Shem, is the fact that they excavate, have a whole many digs, that they found all these shells. And now if there was another type of a min, like we said, that there's another type of a fish that produced the real Techelet, how is it that they know that it's between Sur and Haifa, the Gemara says, and yet they never found any excavations, they never found no archaeological evidence to prove that there was any other dyeing process, any other things. Haloi Dover was not in itself a raya, that if they didn't find it, so obviously it didn't exist. And if it didn't exist, then this is what they found between Sur and between Haifa, so it must be that this is the chilazim. Let's see tomorrow.